From a very young age, Marina often heard adults talk about how disputes over property could destroy even the strongest families. In her surroundings, there were plenty of examples of siblings who stopped speaking to each other because of inheritance, spent years in court, and eventually became bitter enemies. Those stories settled deep in her mind and caused anxiety long before she reached adulthood. Marina grew up in Poland, in an ordinary residential district of Krakow. Her family lived modestly. Her father worked at a factory, and her mother was employed in a school cafeteria. Their only property was a small two-bedroom apartment in a panel building. There were two children in the family, Marina and her older brother, Paweł. Their parents often said that after they were gone, the apartment would go to the children and they would fairly decide what to do with it, either sell it and split the money or come to an agreement about shared use. But Marina never believed in that idea of fairness. She knew her brother too well. By the age of 32, Paweł had never truly found his place in life. He survived on odd jobs, frequently quit his work, and spent most of his time at home playing computer games. Their parents tried to reason with him, but eventually gave up and continued supporting him financially. Marina watched as he sank deeper into immaturity and understood that he would never willingly share the apartment. One day, during a family dinner, Paweł openly declared that after their parents' death he would stay in the apartment, rent out one room, and never have to work again. When Marina asked where she fit into this plan, he smirked and said that she was smart enough to marry someone and figure it out somehow. Those words became the final straw for her. At 18, Marina made the decision to rely solely on herself. She enrolled in university through a part-time program, got a job as an administrator at a small clinic, took extra shifts, and saved money obsessively. She didn't take vacations for years, continued living with her parents, and set aside every spare zloty. By the age of 28, she had saved enough to buy a small one-room apartment in the outskirts of Krakow. The apartment was old and required renovation, but it was hers. After the purchase, Marina lived out of boxes for several months while doing repairs on her own, repainting walls, replacing plumbing, and buying furniture only when it was heavily discounted. When everything was finally finished, she felt genuine peace for the first time. She no longer had to fear the future or divide anything with her brother. Around the same time, Marina began thinking seriously about her personal life. She was approaching 30 and still single. She started going to theaters more often, visiting exhibitions, and occasionally treating herself to dinner at a cafe. That was how she met Tomasz, a calm, balanced man from a small town near Rzeszów. He lived in Krakow in a rented apartment, worked as an engineer, but sent a significant portion of his salary to his mother. Tomasz's family situation was complicated. His father had died early, and since then Tomasz had effectively become the main provider. His mother lived in a village and was constantly building or renovating something, asking for money for a new fence, a sauna, or repairs to the summer kitchen. Tomasz's younger sister, Alina, was also accustomed to her brother paying for her desires, from new gadgets to seaside vacations. After the wedding, Marina and Tomasz moved into her apartment. At first, Tomasz's mother assumed that everything would continue as before and that her son would keep fully supporting her. But for the first time in his life, Tomasz set clear boundaries. He said that he now had his own family, plans for a child, and responsibilities toward their future. Financial support was reduced, and he told his sister directly that at 21 she was old enough to earn money for her own wants. The reaction was immediate. His mother and sister became cold toward Marina, stopped contacting her altogether, and spoke to Tomasz only reluctantly. He still visited his mother to help around the house, but the relationship was no longer the same. Some time later, Tomasz's mother began experiencing health problems. Living in the village became inconvenient. Local hospitals were far away, and specialists were only available in the city. She then started persistently urging her son to talk to his wife about registering her at their city apartment, claiming it would make medical treatment easier. When Tomasz cautiously raised the subject, Marina was shocked. She clearly understood how such a situation could end. Her mother-in-law had no intention of selling her house or permanently moving, but the idea of temporarily staying seemed far too risky. Marina had a logical solution: to register her at her daughter's place, since Alina already lived in the city with her husband. But her mother-in-law immediately began complaining that her son-in-law disliked her, that they had a child and limited space, while Marina and Tomasz had no children yet and therefore more room. In the end, Marina agreed only to a short visit, no more than a couple of weeks, without any registration. Her mother-in-law arrived with a large suitcase, behaved arrogantly, and barely spoke to Marina. She spent most of her time with her son, gradually planting the idea that the apartment was unfairly owned solely by Marina. According to her logic, if a man lives in the apartment, fixes things, buys household items, and pays bills, then he has a right to a share of the property. At some point, Tomasz gave in to the pressure and cautiously suggested discussing the issue of ownership. Marina was stunned. Calmly but firmly, she reminded him that the apartment had been purchased long before the marriage entirely with her own money, and that he had no legal or moral claim to it. The conversation ended quickly, and Tomasz never raised the subject again. However, his mother decided to act directly. In her son's absence, she told Marina that Marina was obligated to register her and transfer part of the apartment to Tomasz if she wanted to stay married. Otherwise, she promised to destroy their family. That was the final straw. Marina silently packed the woman's belongings, placed the suitcase in the hallway, and made it clear that if she did not leave immediately, the police would be called. Her mother-in-law left, slamming the door behind her. From that moment on, communication stopped for many years. Tomasz fully supported his wife. Only when the couple's daughter was born did his mother resurface, calling to ask about her granddaughter. But it went no further than words. No gifts, no help, and no attempts to rebuild the relationship. Marina never once regretted her decision. Experience taught her that sometimes distance is the only way to preserve peace, family, and self-respect.